Hello to our audience here and our audience online. I'm the Vice President of Content at Informa Health and Nutrition, and welcome to Vitafoods Europe 2022. I'm so excited to have you here in Geneva, and I'm really excited for our session on women in nutraceuticals, extending the reach to the C-suite. We had a dialogue about this last October and then talked about it in Las Vegas. And then a number of these amazing women who are going to be joining our dialogue and several in the audience said, we really need to talk about this more, but get really active and make this tangible. So excited about the official launch of Women in Nutraceuticals, a new organization serving our industry for the nutraceutical market. Yay, we filed our paperwork and everything, we're legit. So more to come on that. But first we're going to have this dialogue with these powerhouse women. So joining me first on stage, Asma Ishak, the CEO of Modere, which is a global live clean lifestyle brand. She is a thought leader in the health and wellness space and natural products industry, chairperson of the Collagen Stewardship Alliance, and a committee member on the Council of Responsible Nutrition. What I find amazing is she catapulted Modere to #1 on the 50 fastest growing women-led companies list after having debuted at #3 on the list in 2020, and she was just named again #4 on the list in 2022. So Asma, come join me here on stage. We also have Julia Wiebe, who is the managing director at Red OTC. She studied biology and agriculture engineering in Berlin. She holds a doctorate in molecular biology and an MBA from the International University in Germany. She's done a ton in research and development, working previously at Nectium, and joined Red OTC, a Finselberg company, as managing director at the start of this year. Julia, I feel like come on down. Price is right. And next up, we have Inger August, the co-founder and VP of R&D and Chemistry at Kappa Bioscience, the producer of K2 Vital vitamin K2 MK7. She led the first commercial synthesis of K2 MK7, developed multiple analytical methods, and has 15 patents and applications. In 2001, she founded Synthetica, specializing in custom molecule development, and in 2006 founded Kappa Bioscience. Synthetica, now Kappa Solutions, was acquired by Kappa Bioscience in 2016. Inger, come on up here. And our final panelist today, Sibyl Buchwald-Werner, the co-founder and managing director at Vital Solutions, which works globally in the field of natural ingredients for the nutrition and health industry. She's a pharmacist with a doctorate in pharmaceutical chemistry and a passion for discovering natural products that support us all to be healthy, happy, and look great. She founded Vital Solutions in 2009 and successfully introduced 5 innovative, science-based natural ingredients. Come on up here, Sibyl. So I would encourage our online audience to send in questions. We've got an iPad here. I'm going to set the stage with just a couple of factoids before we get started. So Forbes reported, whoa, tech problem. Forbes reported on 5 reasons why women belong in the C-suite. So women drive most of the purchasing decisions with 75% of discretionary spend. Firms with female CEOs often show better returns. In the 24 months after a female CEO is appointed, companies have about a 20% boost in stock price momentum. Many women outperform men on key leadership traits. An HBR study in 2019 showed women scored higher than men in 17 out of 19 traits considered desirable for a leader, including taking initiative, inspiring and motivating others, and resilience. Women-led companies often offer work culture benefits seen as more compassionate, purpose-driven, with greater pay parity. And you got supporting company innovation. A 2021 study by HBR showed more women in the C-suite makes companies more open to change, focusing on increased R&D and less on risk-taking. So there's a lot of data, there's a lot of insights, but I really wanted to get into the personal experiences here. So I'd like to ask each of our panelists to talk about their own journey into the C-suite. It's been different paths for everyone. For those of you who've looked at Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg talks about your career path as a jungle gym and not a ladder. And I love the idea of being able to explore things and get there in a different way. So Asma, I'm going to start with you.
Is this working? Yeah, it's on now. Okay. Mine is kind of interesting when it comes to nutraceutical space because I've been in this industry for a very long time. I actually started off in the supply side. So I worked in contract manufacturing and then also in ingredient supply. And at some point, I decided I wanted to start my own finished products company. And that's when, in 2008, I decided to do that. I led that company. So right at that point, I was a founder-owner type of a role. And then from there, grew that company, led it to an acquisition by a much larger company. And then about 9 months after the acquisition, was appointed CEO of the larger company. And so I have experience in both being, I think women also need to learn more about capital markets and what it can do for business as well. So I have, we are owned by a PE firm today and have been driving a lot of growth ever since, I had joined. So that was my career path. And before that, my passion has always been in natural products. And it is such a benefit that I know a lot about it, meaning from manufacturing, technical aspects of the business to actually speaking to the consumer, which is ultimately what I really wanted to do over the years. And that was really what my passion was and then.
I so appreciate that. And interesting, we'll have a session tomorrow that'll talk about how do you get more financing for women-led businesses. So more to come on that. Julia, let's turn to you.
Okay. It doesn't work. Hello? Hello? Okay. No, we can't. Okay. So my path really started in science. After my postdoc, I worked in diabetes research for several years. And on the Canary Islands, which wasn't easy in the beginning, to build up a whole new research entity in such a remote place. And after several years, I got approached by Nectium Pharma, offering me to start in a new product development. And I thought, why would they want a scientist, a pure scientist in this job in a completely different industry? And actually people in science, they said, well, will you really want to change out of the traditional academic career to a completely different thing, to the industry? And I said, yes, I need a challenge. So I changed and worked for 7 years in Nectium Pharma, first in new product development and in the end as chief science officer. And during this time, I had the chance to see a lot of different areas in a small company, which you don't have usually in a big company. So I realized that I also liked the business side and didn't want to get stuck only in science, and started to do a MBA. And this was just when then COVID hit us and homeschooling and kids at home. And so it was a pretty tough time, but I got through it. And when I was done with it and had some time to recover, I got the chance to move on to the pharma industry. So I thought this would be just the challenge I needed to bring together what I did from my science and industry experience and the MBA. And in January, I moved to Red OTC, a Finselberg company, and are now starting from scratch again in a completely, it sounds so similar, but it's not so similar industry.
Interesting. Let's see. Hello? Yeah. Let's see.
Number two?
Number two, I got it. Okay. It's interesting. We're going to loop back to that because I do have a couple of questions there. But not right now. We'll wait on that. I see my good friend Rena here. Yay. And Rena was actually the one who introduced me to Inger. So Inger, give us a little bit of your background.
Hello. Yeah. My career started at the University of Oslo, where I took my PhD in organic chemistry. And after that, I worked for a research company for 10 years. I had a dream to start a company that could develop new drugs for pharmaceutical companies. But before I started the company, I need some experience from the professional part. I had a lot of experience with the business part because I grew up in a family doing business. So, but after 10 years at the R&D center, I and my colleague started the Kappa solution in 2000. And I have since then been the manager director of that company. But after some years, we founded Kappa Bioscience, a spin-off of the first company, and started to develop a vitamin K2 production process. And later on, we produce the K2 and we sell it globally. In this company, I have been responsible for the R&D chemistry, and I have been in the management team for several years. All these years have been a fantastic journey for me, and all my dreams have been fulfilled so far. So that's my story.
Dreams fulfilled so far. I like the context there. Sibyl, how about you?
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Dr. Sibyl. Since I was a child, I had two passions. One passion was naturals, and the other one was languages, countries, traveling. And so I studied pharmacy to learn more about science for a better life. And I was really lucky that my first job was with a corporate company, and it had both. It had naturals and it had international travel. I was appointed as a product manager, and my product were plant extracts. And these plant extracts were produced in Spain. So I had a German boss and I had a Spanish boss. And right from the beginning, I found myself in the middle of politics, and I learned how important networking is, because I had to work up a network in Germany and in Spain to survive. And I think this laid the foundation for my career, because networking and understanding different cultures is so important, and this is also today still important and the key for everything. So in this corporate company, I worked for nearly 9 years. I had different positions. My teams did grow. My budgets got higher. The projects became more strategic. But also by time, I had like an increasing frustration. And first, I did not really find out why. But then I saw I'm only in the beginning. I'm in the innovation of ingredients, but I'm not in bringing it to consumers. And my passion was to develop and market ingredients that help us all to be healthy, happy, and to look good. And when I recognized this and I could speak it out, I was time to quit the job and to start Vital Solutions. And this was in 2009. So in 2009, I started. In the last years, with Vital Solution, we have developed 5 science-based, natural, patented ingredients, which we are now selling in 18 countries. And so I did the move from science to business. I'm really happy where I am today, and I'm really happy that I'm now in a position to share my experience and my knowledge with others, so to work as a mentor.
And actually, I think that's the next thing I'd like to explore is this idea of mentors and sponsors. Nobody does this on their own. So I've certainly been very fortunate, both within the industry and the companies that I've been in, to have sponsors, people who look out for you, who point out opportunities, as well as mentors, people who help kind of coach you along. It's the politics that you were referring to, Sibyl. Asma, maybe we'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about not just the mentors and sponsors in your path, but how are you sort of paying that forward now?
This is actually an important topic because I think the beneficiaries of mentorship are actually minorities and women specifically. And I've learned a lot. One is that when I was younger in my career, the mentors that I had were always white men. I mean, when I looked up in my organizations, I worked in investment banking for a little while in New York. Whenever I looked into management, that was basically what was there, right? And that's the issue that we're talking about today as well. So I found people who invested in me, people I trusted that I could ask for advice. Today I feel like I'm surrounded by people who could get me anywhere that I wanted to, no matter what I needed. That's a powerful feeling. And a good friend of mine who's very wise has told me that, really everything always comes down to the ROC, R-O-C, resources, opportunities, and connections. And so you can't really become successful without all three of those. And what I like to do now is actually serve, and I have been actually throughout my career serving as a mentor to young women, whether they've worked for me in the past, maybe they reported to me, and today they call me when it comes to an important career decision, changes, how to ask for a raise, things like that. And those individuals, I can specifically name the women that I invest in, the young women that I invest in, 5 of them specifically, then I try to be there for people. But one of the things that women really have to do for each other is be there. Next time someone needs something from you, whether it's someone who reports to you, whether you're a man or a woman in leadership or management, is to actually follow through on exactly what needs to be done. I've had one accidental mentor who he's a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, a very familiar household brand and name. And when I go into important meetings, he actually takes the time to talk with me beforehand to go over exactly what we'll talk about, asks me to call him right after that meeting so we can debrief, and then is there for me the next time I have a meeting. That is what women need, actually, when it comes to moving them up in the big gap, is between, we have 50% of the labor force is definitely women. It's at the top in management positions. And also I think that, I'll just leave it at that. I think mentorship is really important, and I'm in organizations that allow me the opportunity to be able to work with women who are looking for those things. So speaking on this panel, for example, is a form of paying it forward so that hopefully someone can learn from something.
Thank you. I'm going to go over to Sybil. I'm going to shake it up. Tell me a little bit about the mentorship and the work that you do in this area.
Well, I think, and maybe the scientist is speaking here, I think you can classify by mentorship in 3 different things. One are mentors which are assigned to you. So you get them because you are in a mentor program, or you get them by your company. But then you have all the ones that you select yourself. And then the last one are all the friends and all the family you have. And I think what I still get beneficials from, but I also do, are all of 3 of them. So the assigned ones is that I'm working in mentor programs, so that mentees are then assigned to me, and then I normally go for 1 year with them, and then I also learn a lot, and they learn a lot how to do things, how to be politically, how to communicate, and sometimes also like the tasks they have to do. But I think the ones that select me, or I have selected, are the role models, are the ones we see and we think, wow, how they do it is really great. And I think then we all have to be encouraged to just say, hello, can I ask you something? Can we have a lunch together, or can we have a call, so that to get the relation. And then the other thing which I do, if I see a friend who needs something, or if I need something and a friend has experience in this, just call, go and ask. And I think most important point is be proactive to find your mentors.
And I love the idea that you really do need to see people, so that gives you somewhere to go. But at the same time, as you pointed out, a lot of the people who are in the top positions currently are men, and often white men. And I'm thrilled, as I'm always happy to see men in the audience. Thank you, because everything that we're going to do, it's got to be everybody at the table to move this forward. So, and thank you to the men who have been my mentors and sponsors through the years. I've been very lucky in the people who have invested in me. So, Julia, I'm going to ask you, talk to me a little bit about mentors and...
Yeah, I have been very lucky throughout my whole career to always have had role models or mentors. In the beginning, not so consciously that they were actually mentors. The last mentor was really when I did this change from science to the nutraceutical industry. I got so lucky to have a great mentor who really pushed me forward and always pushed me in the front line and said, I don't need that anymore. Now it's your turn. So you go and get this award. You go up there. And I said, well, you know, you know so much more. They might ask me a weird question. He said, never mind, just do it. And it helped so much, not only the experience of doing that, but also to really have someone who believes so much in you. It gives you wings somehow, and you do these things several times, and then it gets easier every time you do it. So when I did this new career step, I knew already how important it was to have a mentor. And as there was no one just presenting them himself, I looked actively to find myself a mentor for this new career path. And it is so useful because you cannot always tell your husband everything. They get kind of bored with your work life at some stage. But a mentor is there for you and helps you in these difficult situations. So as for me, it was so important, not only the mentors you have for years, but also people that help you for half a year, help you to get like a practical thing somewhere in a lab or something. I try to do the same thing when people send an email and really dare to ask. And I also try to always tell people what you said, Sibylle, this is so true. We have to encourage people that mentors are helping us, because we know that women, people in general, but for women it's studied, that have mentors have more joy in their job and move forward faster. So we have to tell younger women, look for a mentor. We are all happy to answer questions if you come and ask us. So,
and I think you started from that science side, and then you got the business side. So different mentors, different paths in
Exactly.
your different points. Inger, could you speak as well to this idea of mentors, particularly given your science background? I find that really interesting.
Yes, I have not had any mentors, but I have used my family, both in business and professional. And when I started the company, it was not usual to have mentors and sponsors. But I think this in general is important to have success. You always need helpers at critical stages. They should be supporters, but not change your dreams. That's very important. So young women should actively seek out mentors as early as they can. I think that's really important. So when we start Kappa Bioscience, I use my contacts to suggest a business possibility. And the contacts took the role as a sponsor. This resulted in success establishment of Kappa Bioscience, and the investor secured the necessary financial starting point and future development. So that's my
different times, times in your life, different people that you're meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So I'd like to move into risk, and I'm going to start with Julia on this one, because you've just taken this really big jump, and everybody's got risks that you've got to be willing to take and say, okay, let's see how this pans out. I'm looking at my friend Angelique back there, and I took a big risk. I was like, okay, sure, I'll go work in London for a year with the Vitafoods group, and I won't work with supply side full time. And then we had a pandemic, and I'm still in London, and business continues to change. And you have to be like, okay, I'm excited. Let's embrace this. Let's just go for it. So it's hard, though. It's really difficult. And Julia, you and I have had this discussion. It's uncomfortable, and sometimes that's what we need, is to be pushed a little bit into that uncomfortable zone. So talk to me about this risk.
first of all, I'm very grateful for you being pushed out of your comfort zone, so ending up in Europe. That was an advantage for all of us. I think in the last 20 years, I got to this point several times of taking a risk. Because when I moved to Canary Islands, just finishing my PhD, and I said, well, my husband wants to go back. He's sick of the cold weather in Europe. And everybody was looking at me saying, why did you do a PhD now to sell postcards? What do you want to do on Canary Islands? And I said, well, I'll find a solution. And I found someone who wanted to work in science and build up a research group. So taking this kind of risk also gives you the confidence in yourself that even though you feel like you're drowning at some stage, and you're like, for me, it's like swimming underwater long distance, right? You think a bit more, and finally you see the end at the light of the tunnel. So you learn to have the confidence in yourself that even though it's hard in the beginning and it's an elephant, you eat it in slices and you'll get to the end of it. And this is also something a mentor told me, eat it in slices. So when I got this amazing opportunity to join Red OTC and Finselberg, a completely different industry and a different job from science to management, I thought the same thing. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I know the team behind it. I know the people. They will help me, and I will get through it. And I think this is something, it's like if you move from one city to another, you make new friends. But after the third time, you know you're able to do that. So I think taking risks is also something you can learn. And we have to, as women, especially, I think, Sibylle, you said that the other day, women prepare such a long time to be really ready for the next step, while men are more open to just take this step. And I think we have also to communicate that to our peers, to say, just take the step, you'll survive.
Sybil, I'd love your comments there, because we really did talk a little bit about this idea that, if you wait until you have all the qualifications for the job posting, someone else has already been hired. Men often will just put their names in. 50%, yeah, I could do the rest of it, sure. Where women, the numbers will show 90%. Okay, I guess I'm prepared. So give me some of your thoughts about this.
Yeah, it's nice to say, but it's not what I do. So I would say I'm not a risky person. So I'm thinking through everything. I put it from left to right. I do my analysis before I do something. So I would say even founding Vital Solution was no risk, because I didn't know what could be the risk of it, right? So I think risks are, for me, risks which are unconscious, which you just recognize after. And I have a little bit of funny story, and maybe I share this with you. It was from the time when I was employed, and I had a job, but I was not equally paid. So I had a job, but the job was not aligned with the job description to be in the management level where it should be. And I had endless discussions with my direct supervisor. And then finally he told me, yes, if you perform well in the next global meeting, then my boss will give you the go. And then just a week before this global meeting, he called me and said, we have this important key account meeting and we need you there. So you're not going to the global meeting. And then I did something which was not me. It was being completely out of control. I just ran out. I smashed the door and I ran to his boss. And I told him, this is not fair what you are doing. And his boss was like, I don't know what's going on. So my boss never asked his boss, and his boss did not even know that I am not already in this level. So after next month, my salary was adjusted. But I think what I thought the risk of being emotionally was not the risk. It was the right way to be. But the risk was to rely only on my direct boss. So you always have to have several sponsors. So this is again this. And
The sponsors and support, yeah. Asma, let's go over here.
Yes, I've taken a lot of risks, so I'm actually on the very other end of this. But two times that I can remember specifically where I'd taken the largest risks, at least in my career or in business. The first one was moving from business to business to business to business to business to business to consumer. Starting a finished product, a company that actually markets the finished products, and we do the manufacturing of 90% of our products as well, but marketing to the customer is very different than, marketing an ingredient or a manufacturing, service or anything like that. So that was one time, and that was in 2008. And then the second biggest risk that I took was when deciding to actually, to sell the company and kind of merge with this other company based on the fact that I had this big vision of getting to where I really wanted to get to so much faster than we were doing it. And so it all worked out way better than even the best case scenarios on the PowerPoints and the decks that everyone shows you. But it wasn't easy, though. It didn't just sort of happen. And there was a lot of pain and challenge that went along with it. There's times where I thought I would just quit, give up, thought I made the biggest mistake of my life. But I always had this confidence in the back of my head that I can always rely on my skills no matter what, happens. And that I had this determination to make sure that it succeeded. And I had every interest to be able to do it. So I had a really big motivation there as well.
So we talked a little bit earlier about this gap. So we've got, many more men in the C-suite, and whether that's in science or in management. Why do women fall off the track? Why are they falling off the track and this gap opens up? Where you see they may start off together. You got the same number of women and men in the entry-level positions, and suddenly as soon as it gets into the first level of management, you start seeing disparity. What do we need to do to help address this disparity, and particularly in this industry? I'm curious. Asma?
So I feel very strongly about a few things that really need to change. It's not women's fault that this happens, by the way. It's everybody else's responsibility. So you can affect change in your company, whether you want to have a more diverse culture, more employees, management that are women, C-suite that are women. It's up to you as a leader and as a manager to make those decisions. Everything starts, from the top, and leadership and the culture that's established. Second, I'll say that men are just given more chances than women are. So when it comes to taking risks, I'm very, very strong on, by the way, just to kind of prove to you that it wasn't necessarily even a conscious effort, but as soon as I became CEO of my company, we went from having 1 out of 10 women or minorities, not even minority, I was the only minority on the board, to today having 60% minorities, LGBTQ, and women on our executive team. And that was not even done deliberately. We hired the best people for the jobs. It's just that we have an unconscious bias to these things because we want to be around people who make us feel comfortable or familiar. So the second thing I'll say is that the other thing is that one of the best employees I've ever had the opportunity to work with, she's the head of our global marketing today. When I hired her, this was back with my own company before Modere, she had a gap in her resume. She had done some remarkable things. She had been marketing for, GNC and for all these major companies out there, but she stopped working to take care of her kids at home. But she was one of the smartest women I've ever met. And I took that chance on her, whereas a lot of people would look at those resumes and say, but what did they do, during this time period? Don't do that. The other thing is, the third tip I'll say is that when you, this is a policy in a lot of companies now, when it comes to the pipeline of management candidates, some companies are actually going to blind resumes where they don't put names on those resumes so that people can't discriminate, even accidentally. Again, a lot of people don't do deliberate discrimination. It just happens to work out this way, and the numbers are the proof that it works out this way. But that way they can't tell whether they're women or men or black or Indian or whatever. They just don't have that judgment there. The other thing is, never ask them what they're making in order for you to decide on what to pay them. Because all you continue to do is perpetuate the gender parity as far as the pay parity goes, disparity. And unfortunately, you pay for the job. I have a strict policy at our company is that we pay for we pay people to do the job that they were hired for, not based on what they were making before and give them a little bit of a bump and hope that this becomes a better opportunity. That's where you really open yourself up to subjectivity when it comes to trying to diversify.
Sybil, we were talking this morning about this idea of talent management and helping people nurture. And you had some comments around the size of companies that I thought was rather interesting. Could you speak a little bit about that?
If you work in a corporate environment, there will be a human resource with a lot of people. The department will have time to look at employees and also to find out their talents. But if you work in small or medium-sized companies, the capacity is not there. So it's much more difficult to identify what are the top knowledge, what is the goal, what employees can do or people can do. So I think it would be good to have a common talent platform where people who cannot do it internally maybe assign a budget into a common budget and then that they send the employees there, and then maybe it could be Informa or it could be Women in Naturals that are there then to do some seminars and to do mentoring or even group discussions to give people a chance to find out what are their strengths and what they really want to become in their career.
We were also talking about the global nature of our nutraceutical community. So you are sourcing ingredients, you're working with businesses all over the world. There's different corporate norms. I know that this was something we talked a little bit about at supply side was how do you get into that in the supply chain when maybe you're dealing with people who aren't used to having the CEO come in and she's a minority woman, or, you're coming in and you're a young woman. And there's age issues as well that come into that. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I think the nutraceutical industry, compared to other industry, it's a very small industry. And if I'm developing an ingredient, it takes 3 years. It's more than $1 million that I have to spend to do all the studies. So it has to be a more or less global ingredient. And if it's a global ingredient, it has to address health benefits which have a global demand. So I need a diverse team to understand what are the goals. I need different age groups. I need men and women. I need different cultures to discuss and to start the R&D in the right direction before it's too late.
I'd also like to talk a little bit about the science side of things and the gap that you and I have spoken about, Julia, that opened up during COVID. And I think we're going to see this in management, but certainly in science, where you've got this gap in publication that has been exacerbated during COVID. I'd like a little bit of your perspective, though, on how do these situations hamper women's development, and what should we be doing? What can we do in the nutraceutical industry to help support women in science and help their progression into leadership in the C-suite?
So what we saw during COVID, I think, is just an extreme situation of what is happening in general, because in science, the only thing that matters are actually the publications you take out. So you start after your PhD, already during your PhD, to publish papers, and you get to the stage where you want to have children, and you slow down a bit because you cannot do everything at the same rhythm, while men usually keep publishing. So this is the first moment where we lose women, because when they get to a certain stage and attend for a professor position, they don't have the same number of publications, and they are left behind. And what happened during COVID, we know that 4 times more women left their jobs as compared to men, because there is still a difference in pay. So it made sense that moms stayed home and did homeschooling and all the stuff that came with it, while men kept working in science. So we saw already in the publications in 2020, looking at first authorships, which is usually the young scientists that publish their work, that there were way less women than men. So the gap has grown. And this, keeping that in mind, if we don't do something against it, and we already said that half a year ago, this gap will grow, and this throws women back. And when it comes to positions in companies, we find a similar situation. We always talk about the crystal roof, that women can't get up, but we also have crystal walls. I found this in a really interesting article, and these crystal walls keep women from outside of certain areas, specifically of research and development, of production. And the gap that was produced before during the career explains why. So they don't get the same chance as a man in a company to get the full experience in the company and then move up to the pyramid. So the pyramid of women is then smaller. The top they can reach is never the same. The man can reach that has the full experience, including production, including science, P&L responsibility, and all of that. So,
Inger, do you have any thoughts there on your path, obviously, as a scientist, and then moving into leading business and working really collaboratively? Tell me about your experience and as a woman in science.
Yeah, I don't know, but we have a, it's, I don't know. What do you mean about that?
Tell me about your career, like during the scientific research that
Yes, I have been involved in development of a production process, and we are doing a lot of other development related to the vitamin K2 in the formulation work and other works, and we have succeed in a lot of that work. So we are still developing the production process, and we are a lot of other projects ongoing to look into new chemical entities and see if we could produce other compounds in addition to the vitamin K2.
I didn't ask. Our poor AV guy, he's having such a good day with me. I didn't ask if we have any questions from the audience. If anyone had any thoughts they'd like to share? No, everyone's just fascinated. They think this is so much fun. Asma, one of the questions that you sent over, what are some of the misconceptions or accurate perceptions in the nutraceutical space that are holding back women from embracing management opportunities?
Of our industry or in our industry?
Misconception.
Yeah, so I think, I've given this a lot of thought because I actually really took a lot of pride about our industry being very progressive in a sense, because we're natural products and we affected change in 1994 and we tried to change from a policy standpoint, but it doesn't show when it comes to women in these businesses. And so I think it's because maybe it's a little bit of maybe we as an industry believe we are virtuous already, by participating in things like alternative medicine or natural ingredients or the fight against GMO. There's so many great causes that we have in our industry, right? And that's why we're all here. We believe passionately in our blood about what we do, and there's no other industry that I'd rather be in ever, But at the same time, maybe that pride really blinds us to the fact that we have some work to do, to really kind of become a progressive industry in the way that we really want to. So that's my theory.
No, I would agree. And I think you have some level of accountability. How do we quantify? And that's something that we'll be working on with our women in nutraceuticals. How many CEOs are women in the nutraceutical space, from the supply chain all the way down through the dietary supplement companies? I don't see a lot of them. I know a lot of companies in the industry, and I'm not seeing a lot. So my gut tells me, but I'd love to have more data on that. So I think you're right. I think we have a perception. Once we have data, then you actually can have a dialogue. Did you know that only 1 in 10 or 1 in 5 that would be great to then say, okay, how do we move the needle?
Agreed. And I think we can actually compare ourselves to the S&P 500. Where should we be? Even that is a terrible, statistic there too. So I think this is not just industry specific. So I don't want to be that hard on our space. This is a global issue across all channels, across all industries as well.
Yes, it is. So I'm going to ask everyone this. What's the challenge that you would issue to companies across the nutraceutical industry when it comes to increasing diversity in the C-suite? Julia's like, give me that microphone.
I agree with what you said before, that it comes from the top. So I think it's very important to identify in a company where the problem actually comes from. Why don't we have a more balanced situation? And once we identify that in the process of finding talent, but also maintaining talent and giving women the possibility to work in a bit more flexible way, we can also make sure that they stay on. Because what I read, what I thought was really interesting, a huge percentage of women thinks that they have to change industry to actually move on and grow, while men don't have this perception. And this goes back to all the crystal we have around us, right?
No, I appreciate that. Sybil, how about you?
I think there are two topics. The first one is, again, the talent management. So I think I would embrace companies to put people in different positions, put a scientist in sales and put a salesperson in application lab to make some formulations so that everybody can find out what he really likes and what he really can do. Because for a C-suite, it at the end doesn't matter what was your university. And maybe with choosing the department at the university, it all becomes also how you have been raised and how your parents were. So this is maybe not you, maybe this is the environment you had. And the second one is that I think that, no, I forgot it.
It's okay. We can come back. Why don't we? Well, pass your mic to Inger.
Increasing the visibility of successful women will the leaders as role models, I think, will be is one of the most important thing companies can do to impact the recruitment and the retention as well as the advancement. So to recruitment people into the senior levels, all these elements will lead to improved financial performance in addition in companies. So I think that's role models are very, very, very important.
And Sybil's got it back.
So my second point is, don't look only at young women, look also at elderly women. Because if the kids are from school and they have more time and they want to come back, maybe they will start a completely different career. But consider that even if they start with 45 and they need 5 years to come back and find what they want to do, they still have 20 years to work. And we need this.
No, I think that's, and it goes back to what you were saying before, Asma, this idea that, okay, so you were off that train, come back, like, let's see. When we talk about the data that shows, workplaces with more women, there's more resilience, there's more flexibility. You're bringing in different leadership qualities. So that may be an opportunity where you have older women who are re-entering the workforce bring a very different perception. They bring different experiences that can shift the mindset.
So I would echo everything that every brilliant woman here has said. But, I think so every quarter I do like a town hall with all of our employees, and they get to submit, ask the CEO questions to me that's completely anonymous, confidential. It goes through a third party so that I can address anything that's important for our company, and I have no problem addressing it for everyone in front of everyone. I read every question verbatim as well, because I want that relationship of transparency between everyone at our company and myself and what the vision and the future looks like at our company. It'll be interesting how things come up, I've had to be on stage in front of, hundreds and hundreds of employees addressing the need for a gender-neutral bathroom, when we didn't have one in one of our buildings, things like that. And that actually holds us accountable to making sure we provide what we need to provide for our people. So I would say this is that in that spirit, ask your management, hold your management accountable, just like writing to your congressperson. I know a lot of people don't believe in that and they think it'll get lost. You can actually make an impact on your company though. You really can. Just write a note, leave it somewhere. Say that you want to see more women in management. You want to see more executive management, women. And this would resolve everything, actually. I truly believe this in my heart of hearts, and I'm living proof of it. If you just put women in the executive board or executive positions, then everything else kind of takes care of itself. So that's probably the simplest solution. And if you ask your leaders at your company, if you are a leader of your company, to make sure that you let them know that that's important to you.
And one of the things that I think that brings up is this idea of board preparation. The number of women who, yes, maybe you have an opportunity, maybe you're re-entering the workforce, you've got great experience. Oh, I'd love to be on a board. I have no idea how to do that. I don't know how I'd approach someone. I'm not sure what skills I would need. So I think this issue of board preparedness would also be important if you're going to go into the C-suite. Acknowledging what you don't know, what are you willing to take on and learn, is important. Any thoughts or questions out there in the audience? I had a couple of comments come in. Oh, here we go. To the panel. What are your thoughts on the likely percentage of collaborative support of women toward each other in the industry? Aw, that's a nice question. We love each other. We all help each other all the time. We don't, and everybody has to acknowledge that. I would also say, however, I think the perception is, oh, women don't help women. I think that it's just often there's a competitive environment, and men who are competing for the same job, you're not looking at it like, oh, he's standing in the way of other men. No, he's just going after the position he wants. I get it. There's a mentality of scarcity, in my opinion. There's only so many spots to go around, and so I couldn't help her because then there's not enough for me. So I'd love to change the mentality of scarcity. I think that's really important. But I will throw this out to anyone on the panel who'd like to comment.
And maybe sometimes it looks like it is like this, but then it also comes again from the top. Because if the top allows that women compete with each other because maybe the male boss is playing games or something. And so I think then they have to learn and they have to stand up and say, this is not how we want to be treated and this is not how we want to be seen. It's then also, again, be proactively and find a leader who stops this kind of place. I would say it's a play. Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think the only way is to really be aware that we have to help others up the ladder. Nobody else will. So I think that's the first thing you have to do. Try to have the best people around you and try to give these people the chance to also develop, even though you might lose them and they might move to a different company. But if you try to really give them the chance to develop their talent, what you said before, give them different chances, they might come back or they might even stay because they feel they can grow with you. But if you try to keep them small because you don't want to lose your workhorse, this is not what we want, and this is not how we grow, right?
We also had the question, so as a starting point in mid-level, what are the first 3 steps leaders should take today in businesses to encourage and unlock potential? Asma?
I feel like I gave my 3 tips there.
You did some 3 tips earlier, yeah?
Tips. Yes.
Revisit.
Okay. Well, it's, again, being conscious of these things are really important. So I guess if I had to say that in management, steps to take is find opportunities to promote. Find opportunities. They're all around you. And sometimes we're just closed-minded. So look and seek out those opportunities on your teams. Find the potential. Encourage them as well. So the other thing is that women often don't ask for things, whether it's more money, whether it's a position or a promotion, they don't ask. So what you have to do is you have to do it. So I have a rule in my subconscious, which is that I give raises before a woman has to ask. So that's all, and I'll tell you how blown away you can change people's lives with that kind of leadership, you know, because people don't ask, and when they deserve something, be the one to go out there and actually do it for them, because sometimes companies and leaders and managers will take advantage of the fact that they don't ask to keep them, you know, where they are. So those are a couple little things that come to mind for me.
Sybil, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's, as Asma said, it's really important to take care that they ask and that they are aware what they want. I think this is really important. Then it comes again back to networking, and even if you give the assigned mentors. So if you see it in the group that somebody needs some support, then find somebody and to say, okay, this is now your mentor, and you will have once a month lunch, and then to find a way that the person can invent by himself or herself what is necessary too. Yeah.
I just looked down at my watch and realized like we're almost out of time, and I just had been having such a lovely time. I was like, oh, we'll just chat. But I know everyone's probably interested in going to the drinks reception or over to the parties and out to dinner. But I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you to our panelists, please. And certainly thank you to all of you who are online as well as here in person. It's an important dialogue that we need to continue having. I certainly encourage anyone who's interested in learning more about women in nutraceuticals to reach out to me, to Julia, to Jan, to Michelle. We've got Tracy. Britta was here earlier. We're now live online. We've got a website. Yay. So would love to get you involved. Would love to talk to you about the goals that we've got in terms of empowering women in nutraceuticals to really unlock their potential and making a difference in women in the C-suite, financing for women-led businesses, more women in science. Do join us tomorrow if you have time. 4:30 here on the main stage. We've got a great presentation on addressing financing challenges for women-led and owned businesses. Jan's going to be joining us for that one. So more to come. Thank you for joining us for Vitafoods Europe Day 1. Have a great night.